Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters. As you can see, the return of these familiar Toastmasters standing at attention at the bottom is a sign is that this is the second of the instructional series from Toastmasters International on the Better Speaker series. And the subject today is selecting your topic. So if you're trying desperately to think of a topic for your next speech, we hope that this can help. As always, the most popular or common subject of a speech is personal experience. And I can go through these. For family. You can talk about not only your own experiences in your family, but you can go both old and younger. If you're a parent, you can talk about your children, or you can talk about your own parents or even grandparents. Same with education. You can go through each level of education all the way from kindergarten up to wherever, however high you want to go. And you can talk about your children's education and your parents' schooling. Profession, not only about your current job, but perhaps part-time jobs that you've had. And again, you can talk about your parents and other relatives' experiences. Interests. So what are you passionate and really interested in? So I know several years ago, one of our Toastmasters members gave several speeches about space exploration and what it would take to really go on a manned trip to Mars. Now, obviously, he did not have that experience, but he was so interested and he did a lot of research. So you can research and reference materials, say books, magazines, newspapers, websites. Actually, this version of the slides was so old when I first got it, it did not have websites listed. So I just put it in later. And I can imagine if someone was showing this slide years later, the questions people would be asking are, what are newspapers? What are magazines? What are books? And the answer to would be, oh, those are all things that have their own website. So now, as some of you know, when I saw reference material, some of you may know that NIST actually puts out its own reference materials. These are called standard reference materials, which are materials often used for chemists to help calibrate their instruments. So one reference material I worked on myself was 2387 peanut butter. Although I can warn you, that can be a very sticky material to talk about. Or ultrafine test dust, that's very dry material, I'm afraid. Or I can list some others. Stainless steel, that can be very hard material to talk about. The next one, high purity lead, well, that would be very heavy material to talk about. It would be better to talk about aluminum alloy, that's much lighter material. But NIST has 1,000 SRM, so I could literally go on forever, but mercifully, I'll go on to the next slide. Consider it a situation. So what does your audience want to hear and what is the occasion? So that basically means you can tailor the topic and your treatment to it to your audience and what is their capability or desires. So the amount of technical details or the approach you want to use may depend on the occasion. Next one, what are your own abilities? That basically means, do you care enough and do you know enough about the subject to be able to give a good speech about it? And Toastmasters mentioned, would your audience accept you as an authority on this topic? So, like, I actually was trying to think of giving a speech saying, what does it really feel like to give birth? But I don't know if that'd go over so well, but I do know I have a very low pain threshold, but anyway. So bonus tips is that if you're still wondering about a speech topic, so is there something you've obsessively researched about? So if you've become the world's expert on, say, making asparagus and tuna fish smoothies, then you can make a speech about it. And the next one is my favorite. If at every family reunion, there's a story or joke that you cannot tell because everyone around you has already heard it 3 times, or in my case, 5 or 6 times. In Toastmasters, you have a captive audience. You can tell it again. And in Toastmasters, there's no rules against taking a little dramatic license to the story to make it an even better story. So now, in the interest of maintaining your future credibility and believability for future speeches, I don't recommend changing the fundamental aspects of the speech, but you could say do things to make the speech flow better, like tightening up the timeline or noting some of the characters to make it a good speech. So as I like to say, sometimes the best speeches are the ones you've been working on for the past 20 years, even if you've only joined Toastmasters last year. Another popular topic, amazingly, is, well, not amazingly, everyone loves animals, some animals, but they hate pests. So this could, I was thinking of including this in the family part because your pets are sort of like your family, but there are a bunch of other animals that are trying to become part of your family in that they want to live in your house and eat things in your house. For instance, I think a lot of you heard the speech I gave earlier on ticks, and I have heard other Toastmaster speeches about people trying to get crickets out of their basement or cockroaches out of their house or deer out of their garden. All of the speeches I've mentioned, they have all won humor speech contests at various levels. So that has become a new or old Toastmasters tradition. So if you have a problem with snakes or raccoons or pigeons, tell us about it. I know some of you have already told us some of your problems that you've had with insects and mice and other things. In fact, several weeks ago, we heard a great speech about someone with a mouse problem in their house, and I thought I should give a speech like that. I've trapped so many mice in my house that they should start calling me the Mouse King, or maybe the Mouse Hunter would be better. But so that's another popular subject. The last one on the list, is there a table topic where you could have gone much further? I've seen a couple of table topics where the person would go on, literally went on for over 5 minutes. I was thinking, that's interesting, but you could have saved that for a speech. So you can. The great thing about table topics is it forces you to start thinking about something, and then you can build it up all the way up to 5 to 7 minutes, and eventually you build up so much material you may have to cut it back down to 7 minutes. So I've done several speeches that way where basically there's a little joke or story that I wanted to tell, but it only took less than a minute, so I had to build it up. The next topic is those very lucky people with the opposite problem. You have so much stuff that several years ago I heard a Toastmaster give an amazing icebreaker speech where he talked about all these amazing things that happened to him when he lived for several years in Africa and several years in Central America and other places around the globe. So I was thinking, wow, this is great, but don't use it all in one speech. Save it for future speeches. You could make several focused speeches on the other areas. The next one, you are what you think about, so be alive to possible speech ideas. I don't want to, you don't necessarily have to go as far as to carrying around a little notebook that you can jot around your ideas that you can use as speeches as was suggested in the manual, but you can just, as you go on living, you can be possible as a speech. It can even be a silver lining to clouds that there might be a time where you're really, really mad at your spouse or your children, and then you can say, I'm really mad. Oh, but I can get a great speech out of it, maybe. So, so that's one thing to think about it. And the final point, necessity is the mother of invention, which sort of, I sort of got this from a table topics answer, but the surest way of being able to come up with a speech topic soon is to sign up to give a speech in one of your future meetings. You can think of it as a very long table topics. So I hope that gives you ideas on how to give speech topics. And if you still don't have any ideas, one Dan Golas, who was a very old table topics member, gave me a list of 300 possible speech topics. But it's a very old list. Some of the list includes like the Vietnam War. So, but if anyone wants that, they can ask me for it. But sign up for a speech, and I'm sure you'll get a topic. So, Adam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and especially James. Thank you for this wonderful speech. I think everybody, I can relate to everybody, all of you here in the subject of choosing your topic. It's one of the hardest things that we are struggling with. And this was such an inspiring speech by James to give us ideas how to find new topics and where to find them. And I think it was a need in this community to really get some good ideas how to find topics. And I've been struggling with getting my next speech done, and I would like to really give one, but I never could quite figure out what to do. And I think these ideas that you showed us in the presentation, they might inspire me, and I'm very grateful personally. And I think we all think of so in life we have these ideas happening, these things happening to us, but we don't think about it that this could be a Toastmasters topic. And it's a great idea to take notes. So we heard a tremendous good ideas how to deal with. So I hope you can share this nice little presentation you had with all of us to refresh our memories. So I think you used very nicely the presentation, and it was really great to see these ideas show up on the screen. I think it is so invaluable that you are using this incredible humor to find. My special favorite was when you were introducing NIST SRMs as examples for material for speeches and the different versions of speeches that the different SRMs can produce. That was my favorite of all the humorous things, but I especially also liked that you gave us some ideas in addition to what ideas we can have for speeches, also gave ideas how to spice our speeches up and how to be better at them. If I could suggest in this new environment, maybe I think the use of slides was very good, but what I was missing the personal contact, so we couldn't see your face and to switch between the slides and the presenters face, to see your eyes and to have some personal contact as well, not just staring at the screen. But other than that, I found the speech very inspiring. And thank you, James, very much for trusting us with your great ideas for speeches. Thank you.
All right, thank you.